So everyone does know in advance, and I'm putting this on the recording as well, I am just a mom and I am a former educator. I am not an advocate. I don't know laws inside and out. This is just, most of this is just my experience, my knowledge, my background, and of course my opinion, because I have lots of those. So tonight is to, I'm not fancy. I don't have a PowerPoint. I don't have any of that. This is really going to be at the end, I will let you guys open this to questions. So if you want to just hold your questions and not put them in the chat, you can, because a lot of these are going to be person specific, and there's a small enough group that I think that we can handle that. I have over 18 years of education experience. I taught Spanish for many years. And then because of my Spanish, I was asked to go into administration, and I became an assistant principal. And after a couple of years, I got involved in the special ed department and became the administrator over the special ed department in 2 different elementary schools. So I didn't really know then what was coming down my path. And well, it sure trained me and gave me the knowledge, and it's given me the resources, because I still have that group of people up in the county where I used to work that I can rely very heavily on when I have questions and when I don't understand things. So know that I am always that person for you. And if I don't have an answer, I will find you an answer. Might not be one you like, but I will find you an answer. So most of you guys are in the Babies Can't Wait phase right now. And the Babies Can't Wait program, good or bad, however you want to describe it, is entirely fine. But during their time period, they are in charge of your services until your child turns 3. The day of their 3rd birthday, the public schools will take over. There will be a transfer of power around, well, literally the day they turn 3, but the transfer of power will start at about 2.5. And that is when you will go from an IFSP to an IEP. An IEP is what the schools create, and it is an individual educational plan. And the schools will help you create that. So once you're about 2.5 and you hit that mark, you will be contacted by your Babies Can't Wait coordinator, and your coordinator will start sharing your information with the public school system. You will have a meeting with your Babies Can't Wait coordinator and a representative from the public school. I cannot tell you who that representative is going to be. I can't tell you if that person will ever teach your child or know your child. It will be a representative from the public school. And that meeting, and it's the funniest thing, because even me, like, I stress out so much over every single one of these meetings, and I almost can't breathe, right? Like, this is different when it's me on the other side of the table. This IFSP meeting to IEP will be the easiest meeting you have ever had in your life. You're going to be a nervous wreck walking in there, but I promise you it's the easiest meeting. All you got to do is sign a paper and say, yes. That's pretty much the extent of it. What that meeting is it's really just to bring the 2 of you guys together, this public school and the counties, or the county of Babies Can't Wait that you're in, and to say, these are the protocols, here are your parent rights, and we will need to evaluate and do an evaluation on your child. And in the state of Georgia, you have no option for that. I'm sorry to say. If you want your child to qualify for services, you have to have an evaluation. And
sorry.
Yes.
Amanda wanted to know, what does representative mean, or administrator, or is that an administrator or random, or I don't know who those people are?
That's a good question. Usually every county has a person or people over preschool. And so it will be a representative from the preschool, hopefully from the special needs preschool. But right now, nobody knows anything about who is showing up anywhere because of employment, right? Like everyone needs somebody, but most likely it will be somebody from the special ed department in preschool. That's a great question, actually. Yeah, because you really want it to be someone who is knowledgeable. I went into that meeting with like all my list of things that I wanted and this and this and that. You don't need to have any of that. No, you just need to go in, listen, and agree that they're going to work on having an evaluation set up for your child. They will work on setting that up, and that will be done somewhere from 6 months to the third birthday, 6 months before the third birthday to the third birthday. And when they will call, the public schools will call you, and they will set up that time and that date, and they will tell you where you have to go. You will have to go to a school that could be out of your area. It will be in your county, but it may not be the most convenient depending on how large your county is. I live in East Cobb, and I had to drive to Kennesaw. It is very overwhelming when you go into this meeting. Because of COVID, I don't know what restrictions are. When I did this 8 years ago, not 8 years ago, he was born 8 years ago, 5 years ago, I was allowed to go in with him. And Max at 3 was not verbal. He had a lot of signs, but his signs were really only distinguishable by me because I knew what he was saying. And I was watching signing time with him all the time. So I knew exactly what he was saying. They were kind enough to use me. Can you get him to point out his pants? Can you get him to point out his shoes, his nose, his eyes? I have heard in recent years, the last couple of years, because of COVID, the parents are not allowed in the room with that child. There are pluses and minuses to that. So that would be a great question to ask at that initial meeting with the public school, and Babies Can't Wait. So they will take your child away, and they will go over all kinds of things. They will try to see if, like, for example, they'll give a child a baby doll and see what he or she does with the baby doll. Do they cradle it? Do they try to feed it? They're very simplistic tasks. Block stacking, which if you were my child, I think you maybe got to 2 or 3 because we just didn't really play with blocks. They will go over a series of questions. They will send home, most likely, they will send home a form for you to fill out that will help give your input as well. Your input will really come in when they sit down to do an eligibility meeting, but I'm not going to go to eligibility meeting quite yet. The evaluation, once you leave, it takes maybe an hour to an hour and a half. And here's exactly it. They're evaluating your child. They've never met your child before, and they're evaluating your child in an hour to an hour and a half. And they're going to make comments like, your child or Max could not focus on the task because he was too busy trying to play with the other toys. Of course he was, because he's never been in this room before, and he sees all sorts of things that we've never seen. And that is okay. It is okay. I will admit that this is, once this report comes home to you, and this is the one thing I always, like, if you don't hear anything tonight, hear the one thing. Make sure you get the copy of that report sent to you in an email before the actual eligibility meeting happens. I will go over with it word for word. You can call me, you can text me, tell me when you want me to talk to you, and I will go over every single word. When you read that, it is going to hurt your heart. Amy's nodding her head. I'm sorry. Cindy, you're in here. It hurt your heart. I know it did because you called me. It hurts. But no, they have to have weaknesses in order to qualify for SNP, which is special needs pre-K. And if they don't have weaknesses, like I have a friend, her daughter went through this at 3 years old, and they said her weaknesses weren't big enough. She has Down syndrome. She has Down syndrome. That weakness is always going to be there. It is never going to go away. At 3, the difference is not always as vast. She's doing great in school, but 6 months later, they had to come back to the table and say, it's time to redo this again, because the gap is getting bigger and you guys need to service her. So, and I've had a couple of friends that has happened to. And if that does, once again, we'll work our way through it. I will give you the words to follow up on, and I will be there to help you with that. In the evaluation, I remember going in and going, all right, let's max do good, but don't do too good, because, I want you to qualify, but I don't want them to this to ruin your whole life. Okay, he's 3, it's not going to ruin his whole life. So he went in, he did it, we got our evaluation, and I specifically said, I need that evaluation in my hand before the actual eligibility meeting. So eligibility, you will get a report, you will get the report sent to you, and then they will schedule what they call an eligibility report. They cannot send you a draft IEP, okay? Because then that would be predetermining that your child qualifies. Predetermining is illegal. They cannot predetermine, even though your child has Down syndrome, they cannot predetermine that your child is going to qualify. And by creating an IEP, they have predetermined that your child is going to qualify. This gets very complicated. So does this make sense? Does anyone have questions on this part? Because this does get tricky.
Can you just say that part again about getting a draft?
So like right now, Max is, we're several years past this. I will always get a draft IEP for Max at this point, but your very first one, you cannot get a draft IEP because you haven't had your eligibility meeting to qualify. You have to qualify for services before you can get an IEP. Does that make more sense? And the only other time that will happen is when they come off of SDD, which, oh, I got to back that up. When they turn 9, so in the eligibility, they are going to sit down, they're going to go over that evaluation with you word for word. Okay. They just will. And they're going to use a lot of terms that you don't understand. And it is okay to ask all the questions. But remember, I will go over it with you and I will help you understand what all those scores and numbers and everything else means. I will also help you dig out your own goals from the evaluation. When you come into a meeting, it is really nice to have your own set of goals. It makes you look like you know what you're talking about. It makes you look like you care and that you're going to hold them accountable. Any questions on that so far? And this is a lot of information, y'all. I'm making notes as I do this too, and I'll send out a little bit of bullet points of reminders. Okay. Predetermination IEP. Okay. So once you are sitting in this meeting, you're going to go over a bunch of questions and that evaluation. And they're going to tell you, here are the weaknesses and here are the strengths. It is our opinion that your child qualifies under, and they're going to give the term SDD. SDD is significantly developmentally delayed. Your child can have that category label until the day they turn 9. And you want to leave it there until the day they turn 9. There's all it is a generic umbrella for saying that your child is behind, that they have a developmental disability. And that can come, it's not just Down syndrome. That's any child with any learning disability under the SDD. They leave SDD there until they're 9 because it's too difficult to determine at that point if a child really has a reading disability, a math disability, a speech language disability. And so they just count SDD as the big umbrella until a child turns 9. Does that make sense? Does anyone have a question on that? Oh, hi, Marie.
Kim, is that the old PDD?
What's that?
It used to be pervasive developmental delay, and that was the category. So
oh,
now,
was it? Yeah, it's SDD, significantly developmentally delayed. Okay, so, and yes, you're going to agree to that. And you're going to say, okay, great. And then speech will most likely be your secondary. OT and PT will be in there, and they will also evaluate. PT becomes very, very different in a school setting. It has to impact your child in a school setting. Like Max, he could walk up and down stairs with help when he entered SNPK. SNPK, special needs pre-K. I use a lot of acronyms, SNPK. He could do it with assistance. PT only gave us 15 minutes a week, and that was pretty much nothing to help him on the stairs. Okay, great. So your OT and your speech, you're going to be great with that. And they're also probably going to ask you to sign a Medicaid waiver to allow them to bill Medicaid for your child. Your answer is no. It will mess up your externals. So don't do that. They will qualify, like I said, you're going to get services in a special needs pre-K. You're also going to get speech, and you're going to get OT. Okay, well, here's the big question. What if I want my child to continue going to the daycare who has a 3-year-old program? Absolutely. I want you to invite that person to that IEP, but you need to tell the people who are running that meeting well before the meeting that you would like to bring them. They will send them surveys. They will do they will include them, but you have to let them know. If you do not let them know and you show up to a meeting with a person, they're going to call your meeting. They're not going to let your meeting happen. They have to know in advance. If your child is going to a private school right now and it's a daycare, or turns into 3s, 4s, and 5s, and you're very, very happy with it, then there is what they call community-based. What I would do before any of this, at your meeting, when you go for your very, very first meeting from your Babies Can't Wait to your public school, what I would do is say, I would like someone to come observe my child in the setting he or she is in now. They will do it. They have to, actually, because there is a program that is not SNPK. It is community-based. The community-based is only maybe like an hour or so a day, and the teacher, a special needs pre-K teacher, will come to the school, the private school, and they will service your child for about an hour or so a day. Speech will do the same, and OT will do the same. Sometimes they will ask you to bring speech and OT into the building. Sometimes. Yes.
So who do you invite from the daycare, the teacher or the director?
Either or both. So I'll give you my scenario. Max was in a private church school. He was in a little church school, and that's where we wanted him. That's where we wanted him to be. And because it was inclusive, and it was all other typical kids, and it's what you envision for your child when they're 2.5 years old. And the more I was talking to those teachers, they filled out a form, they filled out a survey, and they were all very, very negative, which that's their opinion. They're allowed to have their opinion, right? My kid was 2.5 years old. He barely started walking at that point. And I went in and I observed the actual special needs pre-K classroom. Yes, you may do that. Right now is COVID. I'm not certain if they will allow you. That is another fantastic question to ask when you have that initial meeting. So definitely ask if someone can come observe your child. If you are thinking about staying in a private setting, and I just lost my train of thought. Setting. I'm writing things down and my memory is not working right now. and that they will accommodate you. The preschool that we did, it was after I kind of got through it and I went and observed that preschool, I went and observed the special needs pre-K. I knew right then and there. I mean, I took Max with me. We went in and we looked at it. We walked around the room. I knew right then and there, that's where he needed to be. And then I went back and watched him in the private school. All they were doing was pacifying him. They were not teaching him. So while I know, and trust me, I cried for a week over this, because it's not the mentality. I had to realize that what my child needs and what I want were two very different things. And Max's first special needs pre-K teacher, she's family to us. We still see her regularly. Like, she is our family. She does Halloween with us every single year. So a lot of it is coming to terms with things. And a lot of it is, but this isn't what I wanted. I said, listen, I'm sorry, it's not about you. It's about what your child needs. Now, if your child is thriving and those teachers can verify and prove that your child is thriving in that setting, have at it. I've had two friends whose kids were thriving in a private setting, and they followed suit with that. Okay, it works, but it doesn't work for every child. And please don't feel and pot calling kettle black like you are a failure or your child is a failure if they don't fit that mold. Our kids don't fit any mold. Our kids are all individual, and we have to do what is best for them.
Kim?
Yeah.
Should we also invite the PTOT and SLP that is currently serving our children through Babies Can't Wait?
No. They'll do their own SLP, their own OT, and their own PT evaluations. Honestly, from me personally, all of our, once again, Max has had the same OT since he was 3, and she's still in elementary school with him now. So that's a long time. They're fantastic. I've never had any, this is just me, I've never had any issues. I do have a friend who had one issue with an SLP, and she had to request to get it changed. But no, they'll do their own evaluations, and sometimes it's a good thing to get an outside person who's not necessarily used to hearing them speak all the time or seeing how they hold the pencil all the time. It is nice sometimes to get a fresh approach.
We have a second question to that one. Is if we aren't quite ready to send our child to the special needs pre-K yet, what are our options keeping the IEP active and receiving services through the IEP until we're ready to actually send them to the special needs preschool?
It's a really tough question, actually. It's a great question, but that's a tough question. The IEP, the school system is, I'm trying to place my words on this that I don't come out harsh. The school system is usually an all or nothing. If they recommend that your child go 5 half days, because they're 3, right? I mean, every county does a different time. But if they come in and they're like, we recommend 5 half days, speech OT, and you can pick your child up at 11:15. If that's what they're going to offer and you turn them down, you're going to be right back at the same place a year from now, probably having to do another eval. You may be able to get them to do speech and OT, but chances are it's going to be an all or nothing scenario for the public school. If you choose not to, which is completely your choice and it is completely fine, but I will say from those of people that I know, I mean, I'm one of them. I was petrified. I'm like, my kid just learned how to walk. Are you kidding me? We're about to go into a classroom. It was the best decision we ever made. Max went into kindergarten on grade level, above grade level. Maybe he knew more sight words than the average Joe Schmo. And he went into a co-taught class. And it was exactly what he needed. So if that is your choice, you're gonna, once again, before you make that choice and when you get that evaluation and you have that eligibility meeting set up, you call me. You
So
call me and we'll work out your scenarios.
what happens if you made the decision to go to the public school and
Mhm.
6 months in, it's not working? Can you then go to private school or vice versa?
You can go to private school all you want. You just need to make sure that that private school is going to accept your child. I'm sorry to say that out loud, but that is the reality. Usually in preschool, it's not as big of a deal. Once you hit kindergarten, it's a much bigger deal. Any more?
Kim,
Yes, Cindy.
this is Cindy. We actually chose not to
Yep.
utilize the public school support
Yep.
system for
I know
private
that. That's
kindergarten.
why I'm glad you're speaking.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying, you know, it was scary. It was very scary to give up that support and that services and not know what would happen a year later, but it did work out for us. So, you know, every situation's different, but ours turned out to be positive and we picked it up just fine so far.
Yours has been, you are that example. You absolutely are that example of private school, private pre-K, all of it. You are that example. So yes, thank you, Cindy. And I don't, I mean, when it works beautifully.
But it was scary, to be clear. Yes.
But you know what? It's scary no matter what. Whichever way you're going to go, it's your kid, and all you want is what's best. So I'm just, thank you for speaking up and knowing that you are that person. So thank you. I think somebody else had another question. I saw it pop up on the bottom. Cheryl, what does it say?
She just said that she has some questions specific to what she's going through.
Okay.
Amanda, and that she was going to reach out to you directly.
Perfect. And you know how to find me. So let's see, SMPK. So yes, ask if they will let you tour the SMPK room. Like, for example, if you are, I'm just going to give my example because I'm in Cobb County. Cobb County has satellites that the special needs pre-K class may not be your homeschool. Ours was not our homeschool. Not all homeschools have special needs pre-K classes. Ours was down the street. It's actually a closer school to us, oddly enough, but it's not our homeschool. And I just took them there and picked them up. Okay. And yes, they can ride the bus. That's really creepy. 3-year-olds getting on a bus. I did not do that. I did not put him on a bus until he was 5, and that was only to get ready for kindergarten. That is entirely up to you and your work scenario, right? Like, if you are going to the public school in your town of where you live, the public school will provide transportation. And if they need to go to a daycare after, they will provide that transportation as long as it's within the county. Let's see, where else was I going to go with that? You can see that I take really good notes. So you'll have your meeting, and literally the day your child turns 3 on their birthday, they can go to school. They can go to big kid school. They can go to an elementary school. And yes, they are tiny, tiny little people, and they are walking in there. And when I met with our first teacher, I brought Max in probably like the week before. And I said, well, can I park the car and walk him in? She looked at me and she said, no. This is one of our funniest jokes ever. Still to this day, she laughs at me, or I laugh at her, because I'm like, you realize people don't really tell me no when I ask questions like that. And she goes, yeah, I know. She goes, but I'm going to tell you no, you cannot. He is a big boy, and he's going to learn how to walk into the building by himself and do exactly what he's going to do every single day. I said, I already hate this. And we laugh about it immensely still. And she goes, yeah, I know. That's just what I do. I said, and still to this day, you're the only teacher who will really ever tell me, Kim, you're absolutely wrong. Like, you can't do that to your kid, or that's right on, and this is a great idea. So once, the hardest part really truly is making that choice. Hey, Cindy, let me ask you a question. What was your guiding force when you turned down SNPK, or did you get community-based?
Well, no, my guiding choice was my work situation and another
Okay.
sibling. Yeah, so it was a little bit more logistical.
Okay, and you know what? That's life. That's life. Did they? But that was in a different county than you live. No, you're in the same county where you work.
Yes, ma'am. I'm an APS. Yeah.
Did they offer you a community teacher to come into the daycare?
Yes, and that worked for all of pre-K, and it was fantastic.
Okay, great. That's wonderful. That's fantastic. Did you receive speech and OT services inside that private school?
Yes, I received all three. I did. I ended up doing 2 private, 1 APS provided, just because of former relationships. But it would have been provided. Yes.
Okay, that's great news. That's great news. Cindy, what is your cluster? Are you Morningside?
No, I'm North Atlanta. I'm Morris Brandon.
Morris Brandon. Okay. The school has a great reputation, though.
So far, so
And
good.
Yes. Okay. Someone just asked if they could change from one pre-K to another pre-K. So what happens is they go based on, I can't answer that without 100% certain or with 100% certainty. My answer is no. They will assign you to a school unless you can prove hardship and need a school closer to your work. That would definitely be up for conversation at that initial meeting with the Babies Can't Wait and the public school. That's a very good question, but I don't have a full answer for that. If you are an educator, you can take your child with you to your own county, which is always really nice. And they can service them in your own in the county in which you work. Let's see. Once you get, all right. So now you're actually sitting in your eligibility meeting, and you have all. Somebody say something. Okay. So you're sitting in this eligibility meeting. Everyone decides that your child is going to be SDD, speech, OT. Then you all, now I don't think you have to sign anymore. People say, I'm not signing that. State of Georgia doesn't really matter if you sign it or not. Some people still think it does, and it really doesn't. So you're sitting in the meeting, and the next part of the meeting will be the development of the goals. And that is the development of the IEP itself. Most likely they will have already sort of created something, which I told you they're not supposed to, but we can all read results and we can all know the child has Down syndrome, and unless they scored phenomenally off the chart, which sometimes happens, absolutely sometimes happens, then your child is or is not going to qualify. But let's just assume that they do. And you're going to sit there and you're going to go from an eligibility meeting to an IEP meeting. And yes, most likely this will all take place in one meeting, and you're going to walk out of there and you're going to be like, I have no idea what was just said. You're going to take a couple days, you're going to process it, and then you're going to call me back and say, okay, is this what we were supposed to do? The joy about an IEP is it is amendable at any given time. You can call an IEP meeting at any given time. I will tell you the best thing that you can do is build relationships with these teachers. If you build trust with these teachers, now they don't all deserve trust, but if you believe that they do, build that relationship, treat them like kings and queens. And I promise you, they will treat your child like a king and a queen. The relationship with the teacher is so, so important. So once you're sitting there in that meeting and you're going to start developing your IP, they're going to pull the weaknesses from the evaluation, which is what we will do prior to your meeting. We will go over some of the weaknesses and we will create our own goals. Most likely they will all align. And if they don't, and there's one in there that you would like, one that you don't want because you don't think your child is ready, you speak up and you say, let's hold off on that one. Let's start this one and let's hold off on that one. And once again, I'll go over these and I'll help you do that when the time is ready. or when the time is right. And then you will walk out the door, most likely with a paper copy. If not, they will electronically mail it to you probably by the end of the day. It will tell you where your child is going to be placed, how many hours of speech the child will receive, and how many hours of OT and PT they receive. My own opinion, 3 years old, you should not have anything less than 60 minutes of speech. You just shouldn't have anything less than 60 minutes. And OT, for the year of 3, you're probably going to get 30. The minute they turn 4, you up that to 60. I think 3 in going into a school, whether it is a private setting or a public setting, it's a lot. It's a lot for any child to grasp. So I wouldn't grasp, no pun intended. So I would focus on the speech. The speech is going to come naturally that way. And then by 4, once the dexterity is a little bit better and the finger strength is a little bit better, then I would really hone in on the OT. Max, who is 8, who is in 2nd grade, he currently has 90 minutes of speech and 60 minutes of OT at school. But most of that is from me pushing. And even one of them said, we really should take away the 90 minutes. He needs to go back down to 60. I said, not yet. I said, he's making such growth. And he is, I mean, are you kidding me? Is what he says to me all the time. Are you kidding me? Mama, what? So the speech is coming and it's coming really, really well. So I'm like, I can't take it away. Yeah, he's making growth, but I can't take it away yet. Yes.
So there've been a couple of questions that I think can relate to some of that.
Okay.
So if we're in daycares and it's in the community and we ask for special needs teachers and OT and speech, whatever, to come to the daycare, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then the next question is, can you also do private therapies in addition to school services?
Yes, and I highly recommend it. Max has been doing 5 externals since he was in pre-K. We have, like I said, we have in school, we have 60 minutes of OT, 90 minutes of speech. So technically that's 3, 4 sessions, maybe 5 in and of itself. Outside of school, he still does 5 external therapies, and that's what we keep for Katie Beckett. Most schools don't want to give you your Katie Beckett notes because you're not letting them bill Medicaid. So ours, luckily and fortunately enough, we have a great relationship with ours. And that's just something that I have tried my hardest to make sure that I have done. And these people are now my family. We've had them so long, they will do it. And then every note, you know, in Katie Beckett, everything has to be signed, right? Like every single session has to be signed. Well, I put it in an email to the teachers because they won't sign it every single day. And I put an email into the teachers and I said, if you could please sign every single session, that would be great. And then they reply, I'm not required to sign every session. There is an electronic signature on the bottom. And I'm like, I print that out and I put that in my Katie Beckett packet. That's all I need. Anything else on that topic? Okay. And so then after you have gotten into that, I'm not going to dive into, you know, public school here very much. I'll open it up to questions in just a minute. But once you get in there, get in that classroom. Be in that classroom. See how those kids are behaving. If they're standing on tables and they're standing on chairs, there's a problem. If they are running around with their heads cut off, there is a problem. Now, there always may be one child who will always be running around with their head cut off, and that's okay. But if all 10 of them are running around with their heads cut off, that's not okay. Be a mystery reader, be a room mom, be in that room so that you can see what is going on and how your child is learning. I would say that within the first month of school that your child is in a public school or a private school for that fact, I would request a meeting, just a regular parent-teacher conference. How are things going? How can I support you? And in the private setting, I would definitely do that because you want to make sure the child is learning and showing growth in some of the goals, and you don't want them to be pacifying your child. The same thing is true in public school. You don't want anyone just to pacify your child. My kid is here to learn, and my kid is to learn how to become a fully functioning adult in this society. How do you get into the classroom? You ask the teacher. You just say, hey, could I come read a book? Hey, could I come be mystery reader? Hey, do you need help doing any sort of cutting, laminating? I mean, it's pre-K. It's a lot of crafty stuff, which is really funny to me because they all have very low, most kids in special needs pre-K don't have the dexterity for cutting and gluing and all that, and they do a lot of that, which makes me laugh. They may want you to, come in and laminate or make copies or do whatever. Sometimes the special needs pre-K classes in public schools kind of get shifted over to the side, and they don't always get included in the big school, which is sad, but sometimes they could stand the extra help.
Kim, along those lines, you and I get this question all the time, and I'm so thrilled that you're emphasizing tonight that go in, be a part of the team, go laminate, go build your network and build your friendships and all that. So what are your thoughts about people that, because we know families are doing it and it's fine for them. This is not a judgment. I just want them to hear kind of from a parent and an educator's perspective. What are your thoughts about bringing advocates in early?
I wouldn't do it. That's a great question. I would get through this first meeting. I mean, either they're going to offer you services, you're going to accept them, they're going to offer you services, or you're going to deny them. Those are your two choices at this point. Special needs pre-K is one of the easier, and I don't take that word lightly because it was heart-wrenching and breaking, and it's so hard to let your 3-year-old go to school. These are going to be some of the easier of the meetings. So get in and learn the lingo. Get in and learn what they're trying to teach you and how they're trying to formulate things. The only time I would recommend an advocate is if, Cindy, I'm going to use you as an example. Let's just say Cindy could not find that equal medium between the private school and the public school, bringing in a community teacher, and everyone else agreed that that was the best setting. Then maybe I would reach out. And once again, if you come into a question along those lines, and I am reading over your eval or the actual IEP document, I will personally tell you this is above my pay grade, and I will refer you out because I know where my line stops, and I can tell you exactly what you need to say. But if you don't have the courage, the strength, the backbone, all of the above to say it, then yes, you would. But honestly, at preschool, try to play friendly in the sandbox. I mean, that's not every scenario, don't get me wrong. I mean, there will be those scenarios where you need to bring in outside help, but don't go straight up lawyering, and then you're going to have already broken the relationship with the school. And if that is your home school, you got a long road ahead of you and a lot of money coming out your pocket.
Thank you. Just wanted that out loud.
Yeah, that is tough. What I like, and like today, I spoke to 2 parents today, and one of them, I said, listen, I said, these are the 2 choices that I see that you have laid out in front of you. I'm one person, and those are the options. So I would call the school back and say, these are the 2 options that I'm thinking. Can we sit down and talk about it? And usually if you're willing to do that, the school is willing to do that. And sometimes there is a little bartering, like, for example, I will say, so Max was retained in 1st grade. We kept Max in 1st grade twice. COVID, ADHD, medication, all of the above was year 1. Year 2 was much smoother. And had we gone into that and I had said, all right, so here's our option. Either he can go to second grade, but he's going to need small group, or he can repeat first grade, gain those strengths, gain those foundational supports, become much more independent, and then go to second grade independently. We had two choices. And sometimes that's what you have to do. You've got to narrow it down, like private school, public school, which one do we take? And, you know, a girlfriend of mine has told me that even if you make the wrong decision, you can fix it. You can fix it. There is no wrong decision. The decision is your decision at that time, given all the information that you have. Your child just may need more or less of what someone is giving him or her. And we will fix the problem, and it's not right or wrong. All right, folks, hit me with the questions, because I think I'm not going to dive in past get involved in that classroom. Start there. Now that I've overwhelmed you all and you don't want to ever have this meeting because you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to remember this. Yeah, that's exactly right, Amanda. Drink one for me, please. Thank you. Maybe two.
I asked this in the chat, but I'll just say it out loud since you're offering the opportunity now. So if our kiddos are going into pre-K at 3, do they stay in the SNPK until they're eligible or until they're ready to go to kindergarten, or how does that part work?
Yes, okay. They do. SNPK is all the way through till kindergarten, from 3 until. So the kindergarten part is a little tricky. Sometimes people, like Max's birthday is in January. So he went for a half a year, then he went for a whole year, and then he went for, that was 4, 5. So he went, and then he finished at 5.5. So he went into kindergarten at 5.5. And he was ready. We all determined that he was ready and that he did not need another year of SNPK. Sometimes you can request another year, but once they hit 5, they like them to go to kindergarten, but like COVID impacted everybody greatly. And so there were a lot of kids who were able to repeat special needs pre-K. You have to have a lot of data, and that will be another meeting. Data is very, very important. And if you can prove data-wise that there is a need to retain in pre-K, then you can. It also depends on the date of the birthday. If the birthday is really early, then sometimes that works itself out. Does that answer your question, Amanda?
It does. I just feel overwhelmed, but I know I just need to let all this marinate.
Well, because is he 2.5?
He'll be 2.5 in January.
You're gonna
No, sorry, he'll be 2.5 in January. Yeah.
Okay, then you're gonna be calling me and I will look forward to walk you through this.
Yes. Yeah, his birthday's in July, so.
Okay. So with a July birthday, they might not test him until June. And they usually pay people off contract. They pay them hourly to come in and do testing over the summers. Anyone else? What else can I answer? I'll answer something off the wall. I don't care.
Hey, Kim, it's Dan. I have a question.
Where are you? Who are you? Where are you?
See?
Oh, hi. Oh, there you are. Hi, Daisy.
I was going to ask you generally about the IEPs. My son's in kindergarten this year, so he's pre-K, and everything said tonight absolutely correct. Is there a good resource to look to research with some of the goals and plans? Because one of the things I found overwhelming was that the school would ask me what goals were and everything. I don't development child should be such and such. And my son's birthday is in October, so it's very hard at the beginning of the year, especially if he has a new teacher, to kind of develop. Are there any places I can look?
So I'll actually put these in my, I just wrote that down. I'll put those in my bullet points. If you go to, so a goal cannot be a goal unless it is a deficit. Okay. So in kindergarten, counting 1 to 10 can't be a deficit until they record that on their GKids report card. I love to use the GKids report card as my example. For once it's past the first 9 weeks, it's a deficit. Once it's past the second 9 weeks, it's a deficit. If he hasn't met those scores and he hasn't met that mastery or progressing, that's where you can pull those from. I'll get an attachment of that in there and try to send that over. And also I don't know if it's still on my phone. For preschool, I use this website. Let's see if I try to save it in my phone because I still refer back to it. Come on. It's gonna be one of the very first things at the top of my page. Sorry, y'all. It gave goals from the age of, like, typical goals from the age 3, 4, 5, and what those children should be doing. And that's where, at least in special needs pre-K and kindergarten, I pulled my own goals from. Oh, here it is. It is, I'll add this in the dots, but it is called lovingstartpreschool.org. lovingstartpreschool.org. And they have in here, they have curriculum goals for 4-year-olds, curriculum goals for 3-year-olds, curriculum goals for 5-year-olds. And that is where I pulled a lot of my goals. And a 5-year-old, that's a kindergartner. So that's a great place to start. And if and when they can do that, then you would move to the GKids report, which is what the state of Georgia, and that's how they report kindergarten standards and kindergarten academic growth. Does that answer your question, Daisy?
Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
And Daisy, feel free to call me, text me, whatever, Facebook message me. I'll be more than happy to help you create new goals if you need some new ones. I say that to anybody who's here. That's kind of, I'm a little strange. Like, I love IEPs. I love a good IEP and I love a bad IEP.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So Augie will be 3 in May. So if assuming he gets into pre-K, would you recommend them going just for the 1 or 2 months?
Okay, May is a tough one. What May is chaos.
Yeah.
Early May, late May.
May 10.
I wouldn't do it. That's my own opinion.
So just
I would wait till August.
That's what I was kind of wondering. I'm like, oh, that'd be like a month and a half, and then
if it were April or like right after spring break, maybe I would say absolutely get 6 weeks in.
yeah.
Oh, but like the last 2 weeks of school, I mean, now granted, the last 2 weeks of school is a lot of fun, but it's not going to show him what to expect come August.
Okay, cool. That's what I was kind of thinking, but I just wanted your opinion. Thank you.
That's it. Nobody else.
Okay, I have sort of a question. So we did this whole process. June is 3.5. We declined the services. I wasn't ready for it to go. I
Okay.
can use COVID and a number of reasons. And I'm just not a fan of the school
Okay.
that is the one that's around us. So that's where my question came from. And so I don't, aside from private, I'm not sure that there's another choice for public.
What is your reasoning for not liking the school?
The general area. I mean, I'm an educator and it's not close enough. It's not small enough. There's a few reasons. So some of them are really snooty sounding. And
hey, but wait, do you work in the county?
I do.
Why can't you take her where you want her?
Because I don't work at my school doesn't have pre-K.
But you might be able, teachers get very few perks in their lives as a teacher. You might be able to
Like a
request
permissive
school.
transfer.
You might, yes. I would investigate that more thoroughly. Do you have a special ed facilitator at your school?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a relationship with that person?
Mm-hmm.
A good one? I would talk to them.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that she would be fine in the classroom, but it's the overall setting.
Yeah, I would definitely talk to that person and see what they can make happen, because I don't see why, I don't
As long
see
as I'm
why
willing
any-
to drive her there, permissive is an option. Okay.
Yep.
So I just didn't know if that applied to pre-K. Because see, Gwinnett does not, it's like a full day.
Yes, and they
8:30
just started
to
that.
3:30.
I know.
No way. Sorry.
It's crazy. I mean, you
I
can
know.
have her leave any time of the day to go to a different daycare or whatever. They'll do that. But then you'd probably have to get the daycare to come pick her up.
Yeah. We don't, well, yeah. So it's just where I was like, where my brain is. And so I'm just trying to like,
I would try
she'll
to
be 4 this year.
pull some of your strings and see if you can pull any, because teachers have so many to pull, but this might be one you can.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Mhm. Well, I know a lot of you are about the 1.5 to 2.5. So I know that I will be speaking with most of you in this upcoming year, and I'm kind of excited about it, to be honest, because I know most of your kids, and I know most of all of you, if not all of you, and it's kind of exciting because I can't wait to see your little humans go into preschool. It's gonna be great.
Kim, I can't speak for everybody, but I just can't thank you enough for this. I mean, this is all so overwhelming. And the fact that you were like here to like explain it to us, like bullet point by bullet point. I mean, this is not something we could learn in a book or whatnot. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us and leading the way, because it's overwhelming and we know that you have our back. So thank you so much.
I do. And if you guys don't have my phone number, half the people on here do. Text them, find that 770-845-0203, 770-845-0203. Text me, call me. Even if it's a silly question, you wake up in the middle of the night going, well, what happens with this? Just, it's fine. I'll answer it. Like I said, I love IEPs, and I love being able to allow parents to know they have more power than they like to think they have. Or give them the right terminology so that they look like they're extremely educated, and then no school would mess with them. All right. Well, look at that. We made it 9:05, exactly 1 hour.
Great job.
All right. Thanks everybody for being here. Don't forget to register for the Buddy Walk. We're going to start doing some more moms ins and moms out. So don't worry, you'll get there. I think I got to check with Cheryl. We have a reading specialist coming in and talking to us about a reading with elementary kids. And I'm personally looking quite forward to that one myself. I see Tiffany's like, I'm all over that one. So I just have to get that date. Cheryl, I don't even know that we have that date settled. But thanks for being here tonight, and call me, email me, Facebook me anytime you want.